So I'd like to welcome everyone to this public event, which is organized by the Masters in Digital Fashion Communication. And most of the participants are the students of our master, but we also have some guests. As you know, we organize public events each semester, where the main topic of those are digital transformation and how it is impacting the fashion domain. So today we have a great case study, which will be discussed by Francesca Toninato, who is the CEO, the global CEO of Seven for All Mankind. And so Francesca, she will introduce the company. First, she will introduce herself. I know we have aligned on this, and then she will introduce the company and then the way they are approaching and they're living digital transformation today. Francesca, now the floor is yours, so you can, I know you would prefer staying here, and then Professor Cantoni will manage the follow-up discussion part. Enjoy. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for the introduction, and thank to Professor Cantoni for having me here. It's a great pleasure for me to have the chance to meet you guys tonight. The next generation of leader within our industry, and try to share with you what has been my experience, and eventually provide you a little bit of background or some insight that may be useful in addressing and shaping your future career. As Nadia was saying, first, a very brief introduction of myself, so you know who is speaking to you tonight. I studied business administration at the Bocconi University in Milano. As you can hear, I'm Italian. I have the opportunity, though, from the very beginning to sort of being exposed to international experiences. So while I was at the university, I spent a semester at the Kelley School of Business in the States. As a small joke, I was discussing with Professor Cantoni early on, because he was illustrating me your backgrounds, saying that I landed studying business, not really because at that time that was my passion, that I eventually discovered later on, as a passion, but my passion while I was at high school was philosophy. So, but at that time, the desire to travel, discover the world, and being exposed to other opportunity was bigger than probably, studying the subject that, made me feel passionate. But that's always a passion that I sort of cultivate on my own personal time. After the university, I landed in McKinsey, doing strategic consulting. And again, this tells you a little bit the fact that it wasn't clear in my mind really what I wanted to do. And at that time, I thought that, being exposed to strategic consulting was a great way to being exposed to different industry and try to understand, which function, which industry really made me feel passionate. And through my path at McKinsey, I've been sponsored a Master in Business University at IESE Business School in Barcelona, in Spain. And at the same time, I did the MBA in Spain, but I also had the possibility to do an exchange in the US at MIT. And I came back from the MBA and I sort of went back to McKinsey, and then at a certain point, I received a call from an old friend telling me that they were seeking for a head of strategy at Diesel. At that time, I was close to partnership in McKinsey. So when I told internally that I was leaving, they told me, "You're crazy. You're close to partnership. What are you doing?" But in that moment, I really realized, that it was the time of my life to follow the passion. And I said, Diesel is a great brand. It's a company with a very strong culture. And I thought that was the moment for me to sort of make the jump from consulting to the industry. But the deal that I made at the time was I'm coming, of course, on a landing position at head of strategy, but I really want to manage. I really want to drive a business. So I developed a long career within Diesel where I cover several positions. I managed several divisions there. And then lately, 3.5 years ago, I received a call. During my time at Diesel, I have the chance to meet with the shareholder of Delta Galil Industry, that is an Israeli-American brand. I received a call from the still current CEO of the group, who had bought Seven for All Mankind brand, who was seeking for a CEO, and I thought that was really the career opportunity that really challenged me. And so that's really in a nutshell who I am professionally and where I landed. I'm professionally the global CEO of Seven for All Mankind, but as you see on the right, I'm also mother of 2 boys, so that's the other half of my life, and this to give you a complete picture of my overall profile. Seven for All Mankind as a brand. I hope that most of you know the brand, or the one that have not exposed to the brand, had a little bit of the chance, in the past few hours to check what the brand is about. The brand was born in year 2000 in Los Angeles, California. And it's a brand that really created or invented the premium denim segment, the premium denim category. Before that time, denim was perceived and lived as a very casual garment that people were using during their leisure time and, in very informal context. Seven was born by the intention and the idea of inspiration of the 3 founders that really wanted to elevate the category and create the best denim in the world. They've been running the company, starting clearly with the female line and then adding men, kids, and expanding the brand. And at a certain point, after 7 years, they received a great offer from VF Corporation, so, a group that you probably all know. That ran the brand for, at that time, the strategy of VF was to elevate or, explore the premium segment and, elevate the positioning of the brand portfolio. And then during the VF management, the brand really flourished. All the activity has been focused, on innovation on the product side, but also during the VF ownership, the brand opened a lot of stores, opened the e-commerce, made amazing campaign, partnering with, key celebrities, made a lot of collaboration, and really that was the time when the great definition of the brand has been created. So 7 is a sort of red carpet denim. So this happened around here. You see that's probably the picture of Paris Hilton or another celebrity. But that's when the brand really elevated at its very maximum our category. And then back in 2016-17, the brand was acquired by Delta Galil Industry, that is currently our shareholder. I started as CEO first of the international part of the business, so all the business of the brand outside North America, and since December last year, I'm running the brand as a global CEO. What is a brand? What is Seven for All Mankind about? As I was anticipating, we are the originators of premium denim. So this category was not existing. Back in 2000, the brands that currently we consider our competitors, so the Frame, the Page, the Mother, J brand, back in the days, now they changed the strategy. That category was not existing. And what is the DNA of the brand? It's what we define internally as the 3F, so the fit, the fabric, and the finishing. The fit, because when the brand was entering into the market, it has been immediately known for providing jeans that fit perfectly. That right now seems something banal. Of course, we need to push into the market product with great fit. But believe me, back in the days, that was not so obvious. You're very young, but probably you don't know. We had a moment when, stretch was not existing in our industry, so denim was rigid. And I know it because I had the pleasure when I started my career within the industry to attend several focus groups and, going through market research to understand what, denim is about and how the women and men approach this category. I was hearing, horror story about, people that had been selected to take part of the focus group saying, I'm a fashionista, I really love shopping, but you know what? Shopping for denim is the most frustrating experience of my life. I never find something that fits me. It's stretching. It doesn't, make my leg look good, and etc. So really, 4/7 back in the days when the stretch was not around, coming to the market with these amazing fits at that time, and now they are coming back big time, as probably you all know, with this amazing boot cut or trousers pant with low waist that were making women and girls look perfect. It was really the key of the success of the brand back in the days. But the second pillar on top of fit was and still is fabric. I mean, Seven is known for using just the best denim in the world. I mean, most of our production uses either Italian or Japanese denim. That is the highest quality that you can find in the market. And great finishing. Internally, we say, soft and luxurious hand feel. Our jeans need to have the soft hand to make the customer really look great, but also feel comfortable when wearing the jeans. I spent a little bit of time talking to you about the brand DNA because I feel that also when talking about digital transformation, it's really important to decide what you want to do depending on who you are as a brand and who your customer is. So this notion will, come back when we enter more in detail of what digital transformation means for us. What happened is that beginning of 2020, as we all know, the COVID-19 happened. We were ready to celebrate our 2020th anniversary, so talking about communication, we were approaching, it seems ages ago, but it was just, January 2020, we were preparing a huge communication plan and a full year of celebration of the brand to celebrate our 20th anniversary, and the fact that we were the first and the brand, creating the premium denim category. So these are not necessarily the asset that we prepare. It was just the teasing of what was our plan. And given that you guys are, studying communication in fashion, as you can imagine, I mean, we had prepared a full campaign around the claim of first, always last, working around, the fact that given that our denim was the first and given that we're making a super high quality product that lasts forever. So we have customers that are telling us, I still have your jeans in my closet, or I still remember my first pair of jeans. These are the jeans that I used at the first date with my husband-to-be. So there is a very strong and emotional connection between jeans and the life of people, believe it or not. We had created an amazing plan. But then, even if you have amazing plan, amazing campaign, COVID-19 pandemic happened, and clearly one of the first rule of communication is you need to adjust and you need to be relevant. So a New Year's celebration was completely out of sync and completely inappropriate versus, the phase that the world was going through. So when the pandemic happened, we have to set aside all our communication plan and say, okay, what's happened? I wrote here that the pandemic changed everything, but not necessarily, because there are several trends that are going on in our industry that actually were going on also before the pandemic. And the way I see the pandemic is not as an element that has disrupted what was happening in the industry, but it just accelerated what was already going on before 2020. Talking about those trends, and of course we don't need to go through them. I mean, I hope that you are familiar with most of them. And again, I appeal to my former colleague at McKinsey, but I went through also, having the privilege to have access also to other consulting firms, to the BCG, the Bain & Cohen, etc. There is quite a universal consensus about, what are the most relevant trends in our industry. Digital is clearly the first one and the most important one. I don't have to explain to you how digital has become, fundamental both for our sales, but also for our communication strategy, and it will be more and more going forward. Polarization of demand, again, a trend going on since several years. The fact that, middle brands are skewed in the middle, so there are the mega brand taking more and more space, and, mass brands or, fast fashion growing, but the middle brand being squeezed. Changing the role of the brand, again, there's a lot of discussion in the industry, and rightfully so, about, what's the storytelling around the brand? What's the heritage? What are the values of the brand? What is the brand communicating to the customer? What is the purpose to elevate even the level of perception of, what the brand is about, and what we as marketeers, business owners, or, people working for a fashion brands are doing, and what we're ultimately trying to achieve. Sustainability, another huge trend, luckily so, because we're a whole human being, and I feel that we all have the responsibility to ask ourselves what are we doing, to impact the future of our planet and leave a better world to our kids. Sharing economy in fashion, I'm pretty sure that most of you, know or buy in Vestiaire Collective, or, in platform that are somehow, in Italy, you can find Vinted promoted, in TV every second day. I mean, we know that the second hand is really a trend in the industry, and the sharing economy or models such as, for instance, the Rent a Runaway or a similar model are really becoming, really important in the shopping habit or usage habit of the contemporary consumer. Personalization and uniqueness. I mean, most of the brands, especially the ones that are investing a lot in promoting their craftsmanship and heritage, are providing a lot of personalization in their level of service, but also in the product. Casualization, luckily, good for us. Less so for brands that are in the formal wear, but we all feel and know that, with this pandemic, people have become much more casual, and also in very formal, or what used to be very formal business environment, now, more casual attire is acceptable. And finally, the explosion of small, but clearly there's a lot of activity going on in small brands, especially pure e-com retailers, online retailers, and that given the access, the visibility, and the opportunity that the e-commerce and being digital can give you, can build quite quickly a relevant scale. But as I was saying, these trends were present, were not really generated by the pandemic, but were present already, and the COVID-19 pandemic just accelerate these trends. With this background, what are my challenges and, the challenges and the priority of, most of the CEOs in the industry? Again, this is another slide that I borrowed from McKinsey. They typically run a survey involving most CEO or C-level executive of most of the brands, asking them, to pick out of a list of trends and, priorities, what they want to focus on and what are the biggest opportunities that they see for their company and their brand going forward. Clearly, trend number one generated by the pandemic is the fact that we're all facing a challenging situation from a retail perspective that luckily, now is getting better and better, but for most of the brand, traffic in store have massively decreased versus the level of traffic before the pandemic. The pandemic has changed the consumer behavior. A lot of people, changed the way they are doing most of their shopping, and clearly the pandemic has affected heavily the company results because most of our brands, had to face situation with store network being closed for several months, supply chain being hardly challenged by, lockdowns, transportation situation being challenged, and etc. And what are the priorities of CEOs, including myself, within the industry? Priority number one is clearly, and opportunity number one is clearly taking advantage of digital, and then digital is a word that has a wide array of, meaning and consequences for the way we do business. Sustainability, you saw the G20 and you see the Glasgow conference and etc. It's, I say luckily, a huge trend that is not really a trend. I feel there is a deep transformation going on within our industry, and I'm saying deep transformation because a trend, is something that comes and goes. I feel that really sustainability is something that is here to stay and to affect the way we do business. And then market share gain, because to try to look at the negative impact for the business of the pandemic in a positive way, clearly the pandemic has created some opportunity in the market. Rent prices deeply follow, and what I typically tell to my team is that we've been lucky that this external factor happened in a moment when we were ready to face it, so it hit us in a moment of strength. And fortunately for us, unfortunately for other brands, if a big disruption is hitting you in a moment of strength, this can generate opportunity because there are some competitors being in a worse shape than you and creating opportunity for you to gain market share and to also take opportunity to even open store. Example, we opened a store in Berlin during the pandemic. We opened a store in Zurich, which might have seen or interpreted as something counterintuitive in this moment where everybody is going online. But clearly, digital out of scale, you see from the size of this chart, is really one of the key priority for all the CEO and C-level executive in the industry. Some facts, you know more better than me. I mean, most of the people are now have now heavily increased the percentage of goods that are buying online. The percentage of fashion has increased. The other super important element for me is how much time we're all spending in front of a screen. So the way we communicate to our customer need dramatically to change. More than 30% of brand consideration is driven by social media. That is, of course, creating a lot of pressure on all the brands on how we manage our social. Most of the product is discovered on social. So digital is really something that is heavily affecting our industry. And as I said, it's a transformation, it's not a trend, so it's there to stay and change the way we do business. Definition, I feel a little bit, not being the right person to give you definition, having a professor close to me, trying to, when Professor Cantoni asked me to come here and talk to you about the digital transformation, I was, seeking and trying to see what I felt was the best definition of digital transformation. And one that I found very effective is this one, that is saying that digital transformation is the process of using digital technology to create or modify existing business processes, culture, customer experience, and meet changing business and market requirements. Really is creating or modifying deeply the way we do things in our industry. Then the next question is, if this is a reality, how do you face it? And trying to think about, what I could share with you, or, what's the recipe, I thought, I don't feel that there's a universally valid recipe, but I wanted to share with you what I feel is my personal recipe. The way I approach digital transformation being a CEO is, first of all, going back to our DNA. So before deciding what you want to do, you really need to be clear on who you are and who you are as a brand. And for Seven for All Mankind is being truly premium. And I'll come to that in a moment, explaining you what we're trying to do. But first of all, you need to be clear on who you are, and the recipe need to be tailored and adjust to what's your brand DNA. Second pillar is customer. So having clear in your mind who you are as a brand and who your customer is. So taking your decision, knowing who you want to talk to, and who you are currently talking to. And then the third point is, because in all the recipe, having been a consultant, you always need to have the 3 points, but the point of execution is as important as what you decide to do is executing consistently. The value chain of our industry, to sort of telling you how and where digital transformation is affecting our brand and our company. What's the value chain of our industry. We start from designing the collection. We develop product. When we have the collection developed, so when we have the salesman sample, we do wholesale sell-in, so we do what in the States called market, here we call it sales campaign, and whomever is in charge of our direct consumer channel, so the buyer of our retail and the buyer of our e-com, see the salesman sample and decide what they want to buy and order. We collect and pull together the orders coming from our wholesale accounts and the order coming from our buyers. We launch production, we develop production, we ship it, and then we bring the collection that has been bought in our stores, in our own e-com, we deliver to our customer, and clearly, we communicate to the final consumer. So when discussing about digital transformation, there are tools and technologies that companies use in each and every single step of this value chain to be more digital across the whole chain. What we discuss internally and decide to do is to focus our digital transformation into the end of the value chain. So we focus our transformation in the sales part and in the communication part. And as a secondary focus, we implemented some tools and technology to upgrade also the way we do product development, but also the way we sell the collection to our accounts. We have not touched that much the design part, and we have not touched that much production on the one end, because as most of our brands, we do not own factories. So we launch our production to some suppliers. So we address, the type of fabric that we want to use, and we give clear instruction of what we want in terms of production, but we're not controlling that in principle. But we have not implemented any, technology to really upgrade the design process, especially because in our industry and in our core category, so denim, the component of craftsmanship, the washes, I was talking to you before about, the fact that we stand for soft and luxurious hand feel. This is something that you cannot really convey through technology, or not yet. There are a lot of people working on that, and there are several studies, but also in terms of fit. There are a lot of companies that are trying to bring the technology to a level that will enhance us, to do virtual fitting and etc. But really, our industry, our product is made of fabric with different level of stretchabilities that react differently to different washes, and that you need to refit depending on the type of product you're talking about. So just to make you an example, to give you a little bit of background, if I have clearly a pattern to define what a skinny jeans is for 7 for All Mankind, the measurements are not necessarily the same if I'm developing a skinny fit in a super stretch fabric under a specific watch, or if I'm developing the same type of fit in a rigid fabric and in a different wash, because the reaction of the fabric could be very different. But let's focus on, what is right now our primary focus, what are our primary focus in terms of digital transformation. So the sales part and the way we communicate to our consumer. Before we enter on what we do, just to give you a little bit of background on how big the digital channel is for us. Right now, we are close to 20%, so 18% of our overall sales are coming from our own e-com. That is growing at a rate of, 30% plus year over year. Clearly, there has been an acceleration during COVID, but 7 for All Mankind traditionally as a brand has always had e-com being heavily represented within our sales mix. Before COVID, the magic number for most of the brand was to try to get to 10%. 7 for All Mankind, even before COVID, was slightly above 10%. Clearly, during COVID, given that the stores were closed and etc., we went heavily above 20%, but it's really significant in terms of our overall distribution mix. But also, when we talk about what we classify internally as wholesale sale, if we point out the online channel of our key wholesale partners, so the Selfridges and the Harrods of the world, the Printemps, the Galeries Lafayette, and etc., technically, we classify the sales that they do in their e-com platform as wholesale sales, but technically, their own e-com is the one that is driving a huge chunk of their growth. So, the penetration of digital within the overall sales of a brand is even bigger. Not to mention the pure retailer, the Zalando of this world, that clearly are the winners or have been the winner during the pandemic because, they managed to sort of deliver the product in a moment where customer couldn't go to the physical stores. And also, if I see the wholesale world, all the world of the marketplaces is definitely, for most of the brand, a very important trajectory for growth. So the channel, within sales, the e-com and digital sales are already huge, for 7 super relevant and growing at a very, very fast pace. What are we doing, in terms of digital transformation to drive these sales? I mean, name of the game is progressive integration between physical and digital channel. I personally don't believe that, with the pandemic, because I've heard, and I read also several researches, saying, okay, the physical retail is dead, the future is not going to be physical anymore. I don't believe that. I really believe, and also talking about with a lot of real estate company, I don't believe that the physical retail environment is dead. I do believe, though, that most of the brands need to heavily rethink the role of their physical store within their portfolio. Clearly, the digital channel can give a better convenience, and so the physical stores need to give a better experience or need to have a reason why to somehow force the customer or attract the customer to make the extra effort and, drive to the city centers and come and visit us in our physical premises. But the way we approach it is trying to introduce services that we're somehow trying to blurring a little bit the borders between one channel and the other. During the pandemic, but it's still available, we were leveraging our store staff to do virtual selling. So to contact the black book or, the customer that we have in our clienteling tools and schedule appointment and trying to do virtual selling. There has been a lot of WhatsApp communication between customer and our teams. We work a lot with clienteling tools. So we schedule virtual appointment. In our website, you could somehow contact the store network, the store staff, schedule appointment, virtual appointment, getting styling tip, and also we were somehow doing a lot, and we're still doing a lot of, we call them iPad sales, but they are just, opportunity when you go in a stores and you don't find your size to sort of, but you try the right size in a different colors and etc. to get the goods delivered to you. So really, to me, the name of the game is integrating the channels and somehow making the borders a little bit blur, because the time of thinking that the customer works or think just in one way, it's over. They go online, they check, your offer, they come to the store, they compare prices, they compare the assortment, they want to see, what you have. So you need to make sure that you are integrated in your approach. Integrating, of course, omni-channel functionalities in your e-com, the famous BOPIS and BORIS, so buy online, pick up in store, buy online, return in stores. But also digital and technologies can be used to improve store experience. That especially in a lot of sportswear brand, There are these, especially in the world of sneakers, there are these amazing tools where, you know, you can personalize, you have these holograms, and so there are very cool tools that brands can implement. Here, we basically made a conscious decision, and again, going back to the DNA of what was brand appropriate. We feel that what set us apart from competition and what is the reason why is really the physical relationship between our product and the customer. So we invested in technology to, for instance, upgrade. If you go in the changing room in the store in Milan, the changing room are amazing. You can create, you know, sceneries. You can create, you know, it feels like being in the in your house, in the closet of your house, trying. So we invested in technologies that were enhancing the experience, but not deviating from what our brand is about. I want my customer to touch and see how soft and luxurious our product feels. So I don't want them to buy in an hologram. Or I'll make you an example. When I joined, we were discussing about the new store format of an LA store. And there was an architect that was working at the format proposing us a denim wall. Within the industry, in most of the denim brand, when you enter in a store, there's something called the denim wall where you find all the assortment. They implemented this very cool tool. You know, the denim walls sometimes look like a pigeonhole, we know, with the different boxes, with everything inside. And this tool was basically providing a screen where the customer could sort of surf through the offer, selecting the one that he or she wanted, and then clicking on a button, the hole where that product was lighting up. So I said no to that because I really don't feel that when I have the customer in store, I want this person to shop by himself or herself. We are a premium brand, a premium to luxury brand. We want the customer experience to be personalized and elevated. We don't want, denim is not a self-service category. It's not an easy category to shop. And if you bring the customer, or the customer goes in the changing room and he or she doesn't try in the first 2 pair of jeans something that fit great, the sales is gone. So it's really fundamental having the advice of someone that look at you, understand you, look at your body, and check your style, discuss with you your style, understand what you're trying to convey, and propose to you something that will fit perfectly and will be aligned on, you know, what you are seeking for as a consumer. So again, I feel that we are all bombarded by, you know, company proposing and having developed amazing tool that can cover all the spectrum of the value chain. I feel that it's our responsibility as, you know, leader of an organization in discerning and say, this is for us, this is not for us, because this is what we stand for, this is consistent, and this is not consistent. So really, tool, technology, digital transformation need to go in the direction of reinforcing your brand DNA and enhancing it, and reinforcing and bring to the next level the relationship that you have with the customer. I mean, clearly talking about digital transformation, I mean, communication is a huge pillar for us. Most of our marketing budget is devoted to the digital channel, both in terms of brand communication, but also in terms of performance marketing. I mean, clearly to support the sales of the channel. E-com is very technical, and it's trying to solve and ideally optimize an equation. You need to get traffic in and convert along the chain to generate sales. So clearly becoming scientific in what we do and checking constantly what the return on investment, what the ROAS of the different channels, of the paid, of the search, of the social paid, and etc., is fundamental to be effective. So clearly we skewed completely our budget towards digital, and we are constantly, you see here in the bottom the example of, every single week, if not daily, we check what's the performance of paid, what the performance of newsletter. We really check and we readdress what we're doing both internally and through the support of several agencies to be more effective. But as I said, communication and sales are our biggest focus, but we introduce technology also to optimize our other processes of the value chain. You remember that I told you there is also the wholesale sell-in, so when we do market or when we do the campaign. Clearly, the pandemic has been great to this sense because it has forced us to think on how we could sell a collection, salesman sample, without having the customer coming in the showroom and having the model trying the product or, touching and seeing our product. So there are in the industry great and very effective tool where you can convey a lot about the brand and transform really the sales experience in, what most of the brand call the virtual showroom experience, where the customer, yes, they cannot see the product, but they can have a great representation of, what the product is, also where you are on Zoom and, trying to get the order from your final customer. And also, in terms of design and product development, I mean, clearly, as I told you, we haven't introduced a lot of tools to really change the creative product or the artisanal product behind the creation of denim, but we did introduce tools to try to make the communication, especially having to work from home and not being able to go and visit our supplier as often as we typically do in normal time, to make sure that we could pass in a very effective way all the information, all the product specs, and etc. And so there are a lot of tools that can help you also in this type of process. The last point that I want to raise with you is the point of cultural alignment, because yes, you need to look at your supply chain, at your value chain, and understand who you are as a brand, who you are trying to talk as a consumer, and decide what are your key priorities and where you want to invest, because as in all company, we don't live on infinite budget in terms of potential investment. But the final point, and probably the most important one, and it's going to be my last point, is how do you align culture? Most of the digital transformations fails because the company is not aligned and people are not aligned. Creating a culture around digital is fundamental within the organization because it's a prerequisite for success for every transformation that we want to run within the company. And also, and most importantly, because clearly people in everything we do are our most important assets. I always say, I don't run a brand, I don't run a business, I try to lead a group of talent and individual. And so just working with people and making sure that we are all aligning what we are trying to achieve together is clearly the most important aspect to be successful. Thank you very much.